All right, so the recording has started, and Judy has agreed that we can record this so we can put a copy on our YouTube video, and we will share as we usually do. We have everyone on mute, and please stay muted until the Q&A, or if we get to a point where we need to ask some questions, we can then do that. But we like to keep the background noise to a minimum. So
and don't forget,
welcome to
if you fall asleep, he's going to stop your video.
Oh, yeah, that's true too. All right, so welcome to the Golden Gate Computer Society monthly meeting. Tonight we have a very special guest, which was very interesting how I found her. I actually went to Karen's Internet and More SIG last month, I think it was. And there was Judy showed up on the participants list, and I said, "Oh, that name looks familiar." And then I remembered that I did a bunch of emails from Judy Taylour, AUPC users group, and I said, "Oh, this is interesting." And we started kind of chatting on the sidelines, and she said, "Oh, we have a bunch of speakers available." And I saw her list of topics, and that's how we came about to the topics. So we are looking forward to maybe having more of these with Judy and the other folks in the group. Anyhow, just in case, I think I forgot, but I'm Marcelino Nogueiro. I am the current president of GGCS, and I would like to introduce Judy Taylour. Judy, I'm going to let you say a couple of words about your background. You have a long list of items that you've been involved with, or clubs and everything. So I'll turn it over to Judy.
Thank you. And my name is Judy Taylour, and I am the president of the Santa Clarita Valley Computer Club. We are 35 miles northwest of Los Angeles. And we've been around for 33 years, and I've been involved for 33 years. I'm a officer for APCUG, which is the umbrella organization that your computer club belongs to, or your computer society. And we have a lot of benefits for our member groups. I taught tech classes through our high school adult ed for over 20 years. We had something called SCRUGS, Southern California Regional User Group Summit, put together by Steve Bass. And we met quarterly to share program ideas and, just general ideas to help. And we had a couple of groups that were on the verge of disbanding, and they said, everything they learned at SCRUGS, they could use to keep their groups going, which was quite wonderful. And I'm currently, or have been for many years, on the Pierce Junior College Advisory Committee for the Office Automation degree and certificate program. And it's interesting because I'm just little old me, and who is a tech teacher and involved in this. And one of the deans of the program, at the end of the meeting, he always asks me for all the technology type stuff that they should get to make sure their students have for the next year. And here's all these movers and shakers around here. And he's decided that I know more about technology than anybody else who attends these meetings, which I think is way cool. And nobody's ever given me anything for attending a Zoom meeting. And the gal who's the department chair said, "Send me your address. We're going to send something out to everybody." And I got a half a pound of See's chocolate for the pleasure of attending their meeting. And I got a big kick out of that. And it was, do I want to eat one piece a day, or do I just want to eat it all? And I opted to eat everything that I like. And then I was going to share the rest with my daughters, and the gardeners came the next day and I gave it to them. And I give them so many things, but that chocolate was the best thing they'd ever had, I guess. I mean, their eyes went like this, and I went, "Really? Okay, sorry, kids, you didn't get it, but the gardeners did." And I'm a member of the Speakers Bureau, and we give presentations to groups. And that is it. Let me get this down here. And this is protecting yourself. And this presentation came about many years ago. The president of the Greater South Bay group in Torrance put it together, and it was a counter to LifeLock that came on the scene and started advertising, if you give us all this money, we will help you protect your ID. And he said, you know, we should all know what we're doing. So he put this together. I asked if I could use it. I have revised it a gazillion times. I updated it completely today, and it's just a fun presentation. And it's been given many times over the years. He wouldn't recognize it now. So off we go. Brought to you by the Speakers Bureau. That's a benefit of your group's membership in APCUG. We have way over 100 presentations for groups to take advantage of. We have presenters on the East Coast, Midwest, California, you name it. And my biggie was a group in Florida wanted me to give a presentation, and I was up at 6 and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and online at 7 o'clock thinking, you know, this really isn't fun to be doing this at 7 a.m. And then we have the opposite. I had John Kennedy, who's in the Eastern time zone, at my meeting earlier in the month, and he was up until midnight his time. So we don't, care about that. We just love to give presentations. So the problem is the bad guys are out there to get you. It's a crime of stealing key pieces of our identifying information. Why do the bad actors do that? Well, they love to sit home in their bathrobes and their fuzzy slippers. And with the internet, they don't even have to get dressed. They don't have to go out and do anything. They can get everything they want off the internet. Reduce your risk. We need to make it a habit to be prepared with the best security, etc., just like buckling our seatbelts or locking our doors at night. We have to be ever vigilant to protect our ID. So this is the FTC Top Consumer Complaints for 2019. They received nearly 1.7 million fraud reports. FTC is really good about returning money to people who have been, participated unknowingly in some kind of fraud scheme. And imposter scams in 2019 was the biggie. And in 2020, this comes from the FTC annual data. This came out early this year. And you can see California is down at 15. We are not the top one, but we have many more reports that people submit than any other state. But if you look at the statistics from another point of view, oh gosh, we are at the top of ID theft states. So it all depends on how you look at the information. And this has us up the top instead of way down at number 15. And here's the top 10 report categories. ID theft is reported more to the FTC than the other ones. And it goes all the way down to 2% with privacy, data security, cyber threats, auto-related, or prizes, sweepstakes, and lottery. The biggie ID theft types is credit card fraud. And it goes down to employment or tax related fraud. It's interesting to, find the statistics to see where we in California rank. And that shows where the reports are coming in from the metropolitan area. And you guys have a little, bunch of circles around your area. And it's interesting to note that down here in Los Angeles, I don't seem to have that much. But in the top 50 metropolitan areas for fraud and other reports, San Francisco area is not listed. Identity theft reports, again, San Francisco area is not listed. So the citizens who live in your area up there are looking like they are doing a good job, preventing ID theft. And if you have somebody in the military, these are the kind of identity theft reports by type that they get, which is just really so sad because they're overseas, and protecting us and all that good kind of stuff. And over here, their families are involved in the same kind of fraud that everybody else is. A lot of, for the military, it's specific areas for them. So if you have your ID stolen, an average is 1 to 200 hours and 6 months to fix it. But then again, sometimes it takes thousands of hours and years to resolve it fully. And the horrible thing is sometimes people are unable to repair their compromised identities. And it's interesting to note that if somebody had put a new account together, it took us 50% of the people didn't know anything about it until the first month. And that's only if they happened to check their credit card statements or got a new one that they didn't know they had. So here you go. Reduce your risk, make it a habit, buckling your seatbelt, locking your doors at night. It's critical that we do this. They have our name, our address, our birth date, our social security number, or our driver's license number, and the biggie is our mother's maiden name. The bad actors have everything they need to become us, and we really don't want that to happen. So an old way of doing this is they just steal your wallet. It's low tech, but it is still a major source of ID theft. What happens is they put in a change of address. They can collect addresses through online white pages. All those places where you can look up people. I need to find somebody in Des Moines, Iowa. They actually have their phone book online with everybody's first and last name, addresses, and by golly, there was that telephone number I needed to call the president of Computer Club in Des Moines. And I thought, you have got to be kidding. This is really the whole entire phone book online. And yes, it was. They can just drive by our houses and write down our addresses. And what they do is complete a change of address form. They can do it online, or they can do it at the post office, and it reroutes all your mail. My youngest daughter's mother-in-law moved not recently, she moved 8 years ago. She's still not all unpacked. And all of a sudden she realized that she got something in the mail and it was from Walmart. And somebody was trying to open a credit card in her name. And she could never figure out how it happened at her old house. There was a mailbox in front. The new one had, one of the community ones up the hill. And we figured that what happened is, somebody, either saw her moving out or realized the house was vacant until the new people moved in, and she got some mail there and they took everything out of her mailbox, and voila, they were off and running, except Walmart checked on them because they had one thing that they couldn't complete on one line. So Walmart said, no, but if you put this information in, then we'll give you this new credit card. Stealing mail from unlocked boxes at our front door, postal trucks. I know when I live on a steep hill and the letter carrier parks up at the top of the hill, he goes down one side of the street and then he chugs back up the hill. His mail truck is left attended for quite a while because we've got quite a lot of houses on this steep hill, and they could break in at any time. He happens to park way up at the top at kind of a curve on a cul-de-sac that it isn't really someplace that you would notice it. They break into community mailboxes. I don't know if they do that in your area, but in the Santa Clarita Valley, at one time, we had a rash of community mailboxes being broken into. And when the people went to get their mail, there was nothing there. It is a felony, and people who get caught can land in jail. The old-fashioned shoulder surfing. So when you are typing your PIN numbers in any place at all, cup your hand just like that so people cannot see what you are doing. And be aware of who's around you when you're giving personal information over the phone. And if you're in the airport and somebody gives you a call and they say, hey, you know, mom, hey, dad, I really need this information. You're going to be gone for a while. And you're giving them, you know, personal information that somebody can use for, you know, creating a new account or ID theft. They're listening over your shoulder. Smartphones can snap pictures of your credit cards, credit applications that you're filling out, or they can stand behind you in line, again, if you are giving information to a cashier, and they can record your conversation. You know, my gosh, it seems like we have to look out for everything. And the old-fashioned ATM skimmers, you've heard about those. You might have had a problem one time or another, but it's an electronic device placed over the card slot of an ATM. A lot of times at gas stations or, you know, handheld credit card devices like they use by restaurant servers. And so before you put a credit card in any of these, try to pull it out and see if it works. If you go to Costco, you will see a strip of tape. A lot of the gas stations are putting a strip of tape on there so you can see that it is the real thing. I was at a new no-name brand station that had just come up, but I wanted to get a quick car wash. And I, you know, pulled up to get gas and I looked and that strip was broken. And I thought, interesting. So I pulled it off and I went into the inside and I stood there and there were two people behind the, you know, the check stand, so to speak. And I said, hi. And I held up both pieces and said, you know, your security tape isn't, you know, any good. And they looked at me and they said, oh, that doesn't make any difference. And I thought, note to self, never come back here again. And I have told that to many people because obviously they didn't know what they were doing. And they, you know, who knows if they were doing this themselves. And what is funny, but is at the bottom of the slide, if you look at the bottom, this is from our local newspaper. We had the ATM scams happening in Santa Clarita here as late as April 2021. You kind of think, you know, something like this might go away. Years ago, again, my youngest daughter got her credit card information scammed at two separate gas stations, two separate months apart. But our bank is Premier Federal Credit Union. And they immediately got in touch with her and said, hey, you know, you just bought gas on Lyons and somebody else just bought gas down in Orange County. And they were really good about immediately canceling the card, canceling, you know, the other, you know, the charge down in Orange County. The next time it happened to her, they were going up a freeway in Orange County and they had stopped at the gas station and got gas. They stopped at Walmart and bought some things and a couple of other places. They were just really zooming right along. So you want to make sure that your credit card people and your bank have something set up like that so they can immediately, you know, get in touch with you with text message or your favorite method for doing things like that to let you know immediately what is happening. And of course, ours automatically shut the card down. They didn't even ask us if, you know, we wanted it to happen. So again, if you're you're covering your PIN, don't leave the ATM machine too early. Make sure the transaction has completely finished. Suggested use ATM machines inside the banks. I went to a Los Angeles Police Department ID theft presentation one time, and they said, hey, come on, come to the police station, use the ATM inside of a police station. Be safe. And of course, we should always monitor our account activity to keep on top of what is going on. Phishing, we all know about phishing. We get those darn emails that say, hi, I'm from Chase Bank. Your account has been compromised. And you look at that and you go, I don't have an account at Chase Bank. But they send out a gazillion emails to email addresses that they have, and they're going to get some people who bank at Chase and go, oh my gosh, they're going to close my account. I'll need to get in touch with them. Click, fill out the information. Their ID has been compromised. UPS, FedEx, your post office delivery, social websites, all can steal your identity. And you're directed to fake websites that really, really, really look like a legitimate website. But if you don't take care and hover over the address to see if there's anything on the extension, like RU for Russia, I believe Mexico is MX, and so on. I did this on a Facebook survey, and the person who sent it out said, oh, no, it's just going to my friend. And I said, no, it's not. Yes, it is. Just all the information that I put in there is just going to my friend. And I said, if you hover in, you look very carefully, I wrote down the website and it was going to the Maldives. So somebody over there had this person's all the information that he had put in there. And he's been involved with computers for 1,000 years, but he was firmly convinced that the information was only going to his friend. And here's one with the Bank of America where it's really not going to the real Bank of America. Sure looks like it is, though. And the red flags of phishing. I say stop and smell the roses. Our really, really good friends in Nigeria, they are still sending out scam information. I can remember when my club had a post office box, I'd get a letter there from my friend in Nigeria who had all of this money that he needed to put someplace. And gosh, I'd get all this money if I participated. And that just segged into email using the exact same words. Oh my gosh, I didn't win the lottery in Ireland. And my friend hasn't lost his or her passport because I don't have anybody traveling right now. And you wonder, I don't get things like this. But in class, when I was teaching, every once in a while, I would have a student that got something like this. And I really felt bad, but I always felt really good because then I know the scams were true. And one gal sent me the email and she got it from a very good friend of hers who had started a business. And you read the email and oh my gosh, it was so plausible. It was incredible. But if you looked at the email address, then you got the foreign entity at the end of the return address. Of course, she didn't know enough to do that, but it was a wonderful teaching lesson for all of the students. Don't go, if there is an email that says, hey, you need to validate or update your info, my Gmail automatically puts everything like that in my spam folder. I don't have to even think about this anymore. The same thing with emails that warning us that our accounts will be closed. That gets to a lot of people because, oh my gosh, my bank is closing this. What have I done wrong? And I need to get money, so I'm going to fill out the information. But, we tell people banks are not going to ask you for your account information, especially in an email. And when there's a disaster, all of a sudden you get an email, would you like to contribute to this, fund me page to help the fill in the blank on whatever the disaster is. And there's people that, they just love to help people and they're going to donate money to this latest disaster fund and, their information is compromised. Or you have an income tax refund, we need to get in touch with you. You need to pay this right now or go to jail. Oh, you haven't shown up for jury duty. You are in big trouble. You are going to go to jail if you don't click here and get us the information. And there's your want your opinion with Facebook surveys. I get these from people that I know better. And, computer clubs that I have known for years, and I cannot understand why they keep sending these Facebook surveys, sharing them, because they're just out there looking for your personal information. And of course, urgent, important, oh my gosh, they really aren't. And I love the thing when you actually sit down and you go from the email from the top to the bottom, and you find out obviously English is not their first language, and there's errors and there's typos, and you know the drill. Don't ever click on any links and suspicious emails. And what I tell everybody is report it as spam. They say, what should I do? I click on the spam button. And I've had people tell me, well, I don't have a spam button in my email account. And I'm saying, yes, you do. I said, try Googling the fact that where is the spam button in the XYZ email account. But I said, let them know that this is not it's not real, and it is spam. And after you've done that, delete it. A lot of people say, well, I just delete it. But if you just delete it, you're not telling your email provider that this is spam. And over time, you will cut it down. When Time Warner bought out Cablevision here in Santa Clarita, I found they were wonderful. I would report it as spam. I never saw them again. Of course, the smart bad actors, they just change a few letters in the email address and it comes through again. And with my USA.net, all of a sudden, I wasn't receiving any emails from Don Singleton with APCUG. And I thought, that's weird, because he sends it out all the time. So it was back in the day when you actually could pick up the phone and call, somebody in the Midwest and say, hi, this is me, this is my account. And they would put a blacklist together or a whitelist. And I said, could you, check the blacklist and see if Don Singleton is on there? And I'd accidentally marked him as spam. And I said, is there any way you could remove him? And they said, sure. You could never do that now. Number one, you could never get a phone number that would work. If you did, you would be on hold for everybody, and then they probably wouldn't do it for you. And there's phishing with a V via the phone. Hey, something's wrong with your credit card, our bank account. Our friend Rachel is still out there calling people to update whatever it is she's working with. My continuous one, even though I use Nomo Robo, and that has cut down on my calls, absolutely fantastically over the years. Your car warranty, would you please, let us know if you would like to extend your car warranty. If you don't want to receive this, would you please press 9 and we'll take you off the list? Well, I didn't have an extended car warranty. And I know if I press 9, it would be, hey, this number's good. They sell it to everybody and their brother and get more money for it. And I would get a gazillion more calls. But with Nomo Robo, if it's a bad number, it comes up and says, I'm sorry, this number is not taking any calls from you, click. So I know that if it rings several times, then it usually is a call for me, but Nomo Robo takes care of all the other ones. They'll say they need to verify your information, or your cousin, your nephew, your grandson is in wherever and needs money right now. They're, oh my gosh, they're in jail. And oh, please, Grammy, you have to bail me out. And if people have taken the time, it's not their kid. It doesn't have anything to do, because it's bogus. But if you get some little old lady or some little old guy who's sympathetic and, oh my gosh, of course I will send you money. You want me to go down and get a money order? Oh, I will be more than happy to do that. So we all have to be so aware of that. But the thing is we're the technology people. We need to make sure that our friends and relatives who don't know as much as we do know all of this kind of stuff, or they're going to come crying on our shoulder with, oops, my identity has been stolen. Everybody that is listening to this shops online. You have to be very careful that you don't shop at a duplicated website. It looks exactly like the one that you went to last week. And if you, again, with the address, you've got to go up and look at the address, and have it all out there so you can see exactly if it is the correct address or not. Because if you don't take the time to smell the roses, all your information is gone. So you need to hover. And again, check the spelling and grammar. If it's not put together correctly, you're going to go, that's weird. There's 3 misspelled words in that paragraph. That's your trigger. Get out of there as fast as you can and don't buy anything. Is there a brick and mortar address? If there's a phone number, I'll give them a call. The first time I shopped online was years ago, and I needed to get Blackberries for the attorneys and the paralegals, and I was the office manager and me. And I thought, okay, this is way cool. I've got to order 8 BlackBerry phones. And I found a place where the price was reasonable. I picked up the phone and said, hi there, and I was checking to see if they really existed and they were really in the Chicago area before I plunked out, because I was going to have to use my own credit card to buy these, and they get reimbursed on an expense report. And so when I am researching something or somebody says, you really need to go to this website, it's way cool, I always go down to the bottom, what I call the footer, and look at contact. I go to the contact information and I find out where they're located. Are they in Outer Mongolia? Or are they in San Francisco? Are they in Los Angeles? Do they have a brick and mortar location? Are they real, in other words? But I will go that far before I take anybody's word that this is a great website, just trust them. Well, a little paranoia isn't too bad. So they can steal our information at work with the personnel records, MD's office. You go into your office and there's all the files. A lot of them are all digitized. I was just at my dentist and they just have the handy dandy little file folders up there with all your information in there. And you have to think that how easy it would be for somebody to break into the dentist's office and steal your information. You have the plumber come in, you have, somebody else come in to fix something. If you leave your personal information out and about, there's no telling if they're going to take a picture of it, they're going to pick it up and take it with them when they leave. They use the information that you put on the internet. I always tell everybody I am on all the bathroom walls in the internet. I have been doing this for a gazillion years, and we didn't have to think about this back in the day. We didn't have security programs. We just didn't think about this. And I'm just out there everywhere. And they can also buy personal information from their so-called inside sources. They can get information off the dark web. If you have been part of a data breach, your credentials might be out and about on the dark web. Facebook had a gazillion million addresses stolen, and in 2019, and it was on the dark web. Somebody got into that and they didn't close the door, so to speak, and it was out on the regular web where any of us could have gone into it and gotten, email addresses, etc. And the only thing was they did it by phone number. So first thing I did was check my Facebook account to make sure I did not have my phone number listed. I didn't, therefore I did not need to worry about that particular breach. I Googled my name, Judy Taylour, and I got about 45 million hits. They know everything about me except that I like Diet Coke with lemon. And with your birthday and where you were born, they can get your birth certificate. And what I got a kick out of on the 3rd page of Googling myself, there was the information that I sent to all the groups on February 1st about ID Theft Awareness Week. So I thought that was way cool to put this in here. You give a presentation to somebody, they post the information on their website. Hey, Judy's giving a presentation, blah, blah, blah. Google picks that up. You attend a meeting, you belong to a group of some kind. They have minutes and your name is in the minutes. Your name is in that out on the internet. So everything that is digital gets put out there. The paper and pencil days of taking minutes and typing them up on a typewriter are so long gone. So Google yourself and see how many hits you get, and the different type of information that is out there about you. I got a kick out of one of them because they insisted there's somewhere in the world there was a Taylour drive. And I'm going to revisit that. I'm going to Google that this evening and see if there actually is a Taylour drive someplace. But it's always interesting to do this. Like I said, a little paranoia helps. When you're asked for information, be stingy. Ask them why they need the information. Don't be in a hurry. Slow is better. Check them out with the Better Business Bureau. If there are a gazillion complaints about them for various and sundry reason, you do not want to deal with them. Somebody asks, again, my youngest daughter for social security number, she flatly tells them no. As far as she's concerned, there are very few entities in the world that even need the last 4 digits of her social security number. And she usually wins. They will take another form of ID other than her social security number. And that's just the way she rolls. We need to update all our programs. You know the drill. We need to run our security programs and scan at least weekly. I scan every single day. That's just not really a deep scan. So perhaps you would like to do a deep scan once a month. I have used Malwarebytes for 1,000 years. The 2 paid programs I use are Malwarebytes and CCleaner. You know the strong password drill. Please use a different password for each account. And it used to be 8 characters. Now it's 10 characters minimum, or 12 is even better. Lower uppercase letters, at least 1 number and a symbol. And for heaven's sakes, do not use the same password for anything other than just one account. I know it's painful, but you just shouldn't. At the again, Channel Islands meeting on Saturday morning, their 2 techies were talking about the Colonial Pipeline breach and the water company in Florida. And apparently the water company in Florida was a disgruntled employee, and he used the same password for everything, and somebody hacked it, and that's how they got in. With Colonial Pipeline, the story was they have a VPN, which is good. This is what my daughter needs to get into the UCLA health, because I called her and said, how do you get into work? She has a UCLA health computer, and she has to get past the VPN to get in, and she does not create the password. UCLA does and gives it to her for both her password and the VPN. And apparently with the Colonial Pipeline, again, this guy was hacked, and maybe somebody knew that he worked there, and voila, they got in very easily. And if you go back to, I think it was like 2015, Edward Snowden stole all this information from the government. And he said, if the government had used a passphrase on everything, I would not have been able to steal all of that information. So your passphrase could be the Golden Gate Computer Society meets 4th Monday of the month, ! And you notice with passphrases, you can put spaces in. Or you really need to use a password manager. When I give presentations, I will automatically ask, no matter what the presentation is, how many people are using a password manager? And still, there are so few people that raise their hands. My other standard question is how many people are backing up? And again, as far as I'm concerned, not enough people use a password manager or back up. Dashlane is a popular one. 1Password is apparently the only password program that has not been hacked. LastPass has been hacked a few times, but hey, if you have a fantastic master password and everything on LastPass is encrypted, they're not going to get your information. If you have $PA $WORD 123, your passwords and credentials are probably going to be toast. Bitwarden is open source. In June, I think it was in May, LastPass decided they were going to take some of the mobile part of LastPass and put it into their paid program. User groupies usually don't like to spend over $19.99 for anything, and they just live for free things. And many of them got bent out of shape. And I got the biggest kick out of it because it's only $36 a year or $48 a year for a family account with LastPass. But many of them went over to Bitwarden, and I was told that it just goes from LastPass to Bitwarden seamlessly. They had absolutely no problem at all. So if you're not using a password manager, you need to have the discussion with your members and find out who's using what, why they like it, how easy it is. Joe Kissel, who is an author and publisher and owner of Take Control Books in San Diego, with his password program, he says, don't put all your passwords in there. He said, the ones that you use on a daily basis, you know, you're going to know, you're going to remember them, so keep them out. And I have a password presentation, just a general one, like, why do you need one? And when I gave it to my members, my question was, why aren't you using a password manager? And two of the people said, I don't want to give up control. And I told them what Joe said, you know, keep some out that you have control of. I still have one member who's worked as the IT person at a major company his whole entire career, says, I still haven't figured out why you need one. I can't figure out where he's coming from. But seriously, have the discussion with your members and see who's using what. Do you have a home network? I mean, everybody has a router. Do you have a strong password? When they ship, they all have the same thing. How old is it? I was at a meeting and this guy said, I'm having problems with my router. And somebody asked how old, he goes, 10 years. And they said, well, you really need to get a new one because you are not getting any security updates. So you always need to register your router. As soon as I did, I got 4 security updates, you know, that it had obviously been sitting in the box at some store, and it had 4 security updates. So you want to make sure you register it. And if it's 1,000 years old, you really want to go out and buy a new one. And if you are using, I don't know who your provider's up there, mine was Time Warner, now it's the ever horrible, awful Spectrum. And every year I would take my computer, all my stuff, I'd gather everything up and I take it in and say, hi, here I am. Could I have new stuff? And my son had worked at Cablevision and then Time Warner for years, so they knew me. My daughter-in-law had set up the office and designed it and everything, so they were used to me doing that. People say, can I really do that? And I say, you must. I had a field tech here and he said, I have my own router and my own modem and stuff like that, but I have a VoIP phone that belongs to Spectrum. And he said, you know, that will not be good by 12/31/20. You need to turn it in. And I patted myself on the back and thought, not too shabby, Judy. All these years you've been taking your stuff and trading it in, and it's been a good deal. And it was interesting because I was ready to take it up to the store and turn it in. Make sure your security programs are up to date on everything. And I love this, never clicked on unsolicited pop-up ads. I got a call from the president of a group in Laverne. And she said, you know, we're getting ready to go back to Wisconsin and we're going to be gone 3 months. And wouldn't you know, my husband had a pop-up and it said your computer may be infected. He clicked on it. They have his charge card and they fixed it. And she said, is there anything you can do about it? And I thought, really? Okay. And I tracked it down. It was like a boiler room in Chicago. And you could hear everybody answering the phone, Microsoft support. And then I called again and you would hear the different people saying different major companies support. So the third time I talked to the guy, scared the heck out of him. And he gave me the company in, would you believe, San Jose, that was behind the pop-up and that ended up with the money. I called them and told them I was going to be calling the police department in San Jose. And if they did not return that person's money, cancel the account, the whole 9 yards. And they saluted and said, Ms. Taylour, we will take care of that for you. So it was nice to know that if you press hard enough, you can do some good for some people. And what was interesting is she knew better because she came to all my presentations. He didn't, and he happened to be the one that, you know, got the pop-up. So avoid putting your email address on public web pages because spammers have nothing to do but send their bots out, and all of a sudden, you know, your email address has been compromised. If you look at computer club websites, you will see space, paren, AT, paren, or something like that. It's interesting. If you copy and paste that in Gmail, it reverts to an email address, but it's a good thought. Many groups turn their their board members' email addresses into a graphic so they can't be stolen. And for heaven's sakes, if you receive an email and you say, oh, I did not subscribe to this, don't unsubscribe. You are verifying to the guy who's sitting at home in his, you know, bathrobe and fuzzy slippers that it is a live email address, and he gets more money to sell that one. So mark it as spam and delete it. And I would always tell my students, if you're signing up to subscribe to something, you're registering your software or whatever, use an alternate, a throwaway email address. Don't use your regular one because you don't know how far that magazine subscription company is going to spread your information. So don't, you know, muck it up with your email address that you normally use. Get a different account, a completely different. I'm SCV Judy. That's not my throwaway email address. I have something else that, you know, it doesn't compute with me, so to speak. So think about having a throwaway email address. And we all know not to click here. And if you hover over click here, you can see where you might be going if you happen to click there. And it's probably not any place that is mentioned in the email at all. One of the things that you all should definitely do is set up an account at irs.gov before the bad guys do and steal your information and tax data. And my great, huge biggie is never forward chain letters and virus warnings, period. But if you do that, please always use BCC. And if you have received it and there's a gazillion email addresses out there right in front of your very eyeballs, you are going to delete all of those before you send it up BCC. And I always, you know, reply back to the person who sent it and said, you know, you need to put everybody in BCC because otherwise their email addresses can be stolen and harvested. Oh, I didn't know that. So I'm always happy to let them know the error of their ways. Stolen mail, that's a good way for your information to be stolen. So you can set up an informed delivery via the United States Post Office. And you will get an email every day with X number of graphics of, they say, grayscale images of what you are going to be getting the next day. And does this work? Yeah. Again, a different Laverne lady, and her mailbox was down at the bottom of the drive. She lived way up at the top, and she got the email that told her what she would get. She couldn't see her mailbox. When she would get down there, she was finding the mail that was supposed to be there wasn't there. And before she set up this account, she would go down and say, you know, I'm not getting my mail. And it was kind of, prove it, lady. Well, she had the email and she would take down what she got and she'd say, I did not get what is on here. So if you want to be super careful with your mail and your mailbox isn't close by you, or even if it is, you can set up an informed delivery account. How do they use our information? They can call our credit card people and say, hey, I'm Judy Taylour. I've just moved and I'd like to change the mailing address on my credit card account. They can open new accounts. They can, of course, establish new phone or wireless service in our names, open up bank accounts, write bad checks, file for bankruptcy, counterfeit checks or debit cards. When I went to that LAPD presentation, they said check washing is alive and well, that they had just busted somebody in the San Fernando Valley at a motel, and in the bathtub, they had strung these lines, and hanging from them were all these checks that they had stolen, and they had washed them, getting ready to, when they dried, fill in their own information and cash them. They can take out car loans in our name. They can even get medical treatment in our name. There's almost nothing that they can't do when they become us. And we don't want that to happen. So medical ID theft is huge. They can use our name, our social security number, our health insurance information, our Medicare number. Never have your Medicare card with you unless you're going to need it when you're going in for an appointment. I have never had to show it to anybody since I got it. They can do all that kinds of stuff and become you. And if their health information gets mixed up with ours, you go in and they say, oh, I'm so sorry, you need another thyroid test. And you look at them and you go, what? Another thyroid test? I haven't had one. Well, no, it's right here in your file. Well, no, it's not, because somebody has pretended they are me and they have gone to a totally different doctor. And of course, it can hurt our credit at the bottom line. So we need to protect everything that's there with those bullet points. I know when I get rid of my prescription bottles, I use my thick black magic marker and I cover over all identifying information. I take all of the stickers off, and the only thing I put in recycling is the plastic bottle. I do a number on it. What do you do with your billing statements? You're going to shred them. You're certainly not going to throw them in the trash. When you get your monthly EOBs, the same thing. I can remember back in the day, we were talking about this at my computer club. And I said, those forms that you get, do you want insurance? AAA will send you a form that's, a huge amount of information. And I say, what do you do with those? And they said, oh, we take the information off the top and shred it. And I said, do you ever look at the bottom where all of your information is pre-filled in for those accounts? And they looked at me and said, you've got to be kidding. With that, I held up one that I had recently gotten, and there down at the bottom was my name, my phone, everything about me that, needed to fill out the form. And they said, that was one of the better things that I had mentioned at a computer club meeting, because they thought they were, by getting rid of the information at the top, they were done. Well, no, they weren't. Medical theft can go unnoticed for months, even years. Apparently, for some reason, medical ID theft, isn't really up there on the front burner, and the healthcare provider doesn't tell us about it. There's the HIPAA, so there's problems fixing it. And it's very difficult to prove you're not the one who received the treatment. That's not like they have a picture of you in there. And average cost of victims for medical ID theft can be $13,500 plus. And treat your trash and mail carefully. Destroy the credit card applications. Remember, they too have that pre-filled in information at the bottom. Shred. I thought when I retired, I brought they closed the company, and I brought a business type shredder home. And I thought, oh, cool. When my grandkids come over, I'm going to let them shred everything. Well, that ship sailed. That kind of wasn't at the top of their to-do list when they came to Grammy. They like to run out and down below in the property and build forts and everything. And I simply remove all of my address information, that bottom strip, and I have a basket and I put everything in there. And Staples is my friend. I take it up to Staples. It's inexpensive. I put all my shredding in the big container, pay them, and I'm off and running. And it's interesting. My oldest daughter and her family, they just throw all their stuff in the trash. They're teachers. I cannot understand that. Whereas the business person shreds every single thing. You can opt out of those pre-screened credit offers and more. And I love it. This is one of the things I changed because the phone number that was in there, it didn't work. And so I Googled this, and you can go to the National Do Not Mail list and get rid of junk mail. And for some reason, the Computer Club is getting a Bible magazine. And I got my 3rd issue today. And it said, fill out the form and we'll give you a 6-month free trial. And I thought, well, you've already sent it to me 3 times. But I got the biggest kick out of that. It's coming to the Computer Club. And I'm thinking, it's just got to stop. Well, I'm going to go to this National Do Not Mail list, which is like the National Do Not Call list, and put in there that I really don't want to get this from this organization. And use Bill James from Oklahoma, the Oklahoma group says everybody should use 2-factor authentication on every single account they have. And I tell him, that's really asking a lot. He said, I don't care. Everybody should be using 2FA. And that's what my daughter has to use to get into UCLA health stuff. So there's a credit freeze that you can get. Contact one of the 3 credit bureaus and anybody can get a freeze. It's free again, and it's better protection than an alert, and they last until you remove them. And if for some reason you decide, oh, hey, I think I want a freeze again, you can start it again for free. They don't think you're, hello, why is this person coming back? Why couldn't they have left it on? So they used to cost. They no longer cost anything. A fraud alert. The alert says to the creditor, you can get the report if they take steps to verify your identity. Again, contact any one of the credit bureaus and set it up. It lasts for a year and you can keep on renewing it. And way back in the day, Ira Wilsker is a deputy sheriff out of Beaumont, Texas. And for some reason, I don't think he ever, busted a criminal or anything. He was involved in security. And he used to work with the Secret Service. He went over to Europe and worked with people over there and gave presentations. And I never could figure out how a deputy sheriff from Beaumont got to do stuff like that. But his story was he was in line at Home Depot. And the kids said, would you like a credit card? And he said, before he could open his mouth to say no, his phone buzzed and he picked it up, and it was the credit bureau saying that Home Depot had just requested a credit card be issued to him. Case in point, fraud or freeze. And I recently checked out my credit report, which is what everybody should do 3 times a year. And it had me living 2 places where my youngest daughter lived. I don't have any problem with my oldest kid doing anything. It's my business daughter. And I thought, okay, everything else was cool. I mean, it was just benign, but it had me living in, 5 miles from me. I've lived here for 43 years. I haven't gone anyplace. I've not moved to Castaic. And I did not live at her mother-in-law's either. And so I got in touch with the credit bureau, and I went online and I put in a dispute, said I didn't live there, and I gave my daughter's name, and those were her addresses. And I got an email from them, and it said, click here and check on your dispute. And they added the note to my credit report that no, I had never lived in either of those 2 places. So that's why you need, there was nothing wrong with any of my credit information. It's just that they had me living two places where I never had. So I recommend that you get your free credit report. And if you can't answer all of the questions, and some of them are really obscure at the online one, they will be more than happy to send you a form to complete. By the time I had completed mine in purple ink with a gel pen, I got down to the bottom and it said, please use blue or black pen. And I thought, well, you know, I've only got this form. I sent it through with my purple ink and I got my credit report. So apparently that either use blue or black didn't mean anything. You could, if you're an AARP person, even if you're not, they have the Fraud Watch Network. Every once in a while, I will get information here, click here and see a video about the latest fraud, the one that's the most popular now, and their watchdog alerts. And if you suspect you, a relative, a friend, or et cetera, as a victim, you can call the AARP free helpline. And there's the hours and chat with them about it. And two of the latest scams are turning grandma into a money mule. And we all have to have these real IDs or have our passport valid in a while to get into a government building or fly. And these are apparently two that are right up at the top of AARP's fraud list right now. And there is I am a member of the Los Angeles FBI Senior Scams Working Group. I have absolutely no idea why they sent me an email 3 years ago asking me to attend their meeting, except over time with my Southwest Technology Conference, I have ordered a lot of handouts from the FTC. I don't know if that's where they got me. I have no clue, but let me tell you, those meetings are really interesting. You're with district attorneys, the DOJ attorneys, the whole 9 yards, and cops, and you really learn a lot. And there's a bank organization, an organization of banks that have gotten together to stop grandma from being a money mule. And they keep track of people who are going to one bank and opening an account, depositing in a whole bunch of money, and then withdrawing it and going someplace else. And they're laundering money, but they've turned these older people into money mules. And that presentation, when they talked about that, really opened your eyes. And of course, the government has a form to put this information into, but the cop shops don't have enough volunteers to put in the information when somebody comes and gives a report. And apparently the banks have, this is super simple, and they are starting to share all kinds of information so they can stop the money mule process. There's your information about signing up for an IRS account and the information for signing up for a Social Security account. You want to do it before the bad guys do it. And you go, yeah, sure. I think all parents should do the Social Security as soon as their kids get a Social Security number, and then put the freeze, whatever the freeze or the alert, the most largest thing that the strictest thing you could put on it, just in case, because sometimes the kids don't find out they've been compromised until they start working years after they have gotten their Social Security card. But I gave this a presentation to the Glendora group, and this guy raised his hand and he said, one of these two accounts, I don't remember which one, when he went in to set up his account, they said, I'm so sorry, you already have an account. Well, he knew he didn't. And he said, I have been to the office. I have been working on this for a year. I have been to the office and I cannot convince them. I can't give them enough paperwork. Hi, here I am. Here's my driver's license. It's really me. And he said, it's really the pits. So I recommend you get both of those. Keep your credentials, where you can find them. I really don't care if you ever use them. It's just that you want to get them before the bad guys get them. So you're opening a new account. Back in the day, they would ask us our mother's maiden name. By golly, we put that in there, and you look at it now and say, why in the world did we do that? They no more would have known what our mother's maiden name was than fly to the moon. You could put a password in there. You can put anything you want to, anything except your mother's maiden name. And like my daughter, don't give your social security number unless they say, I'm sorry, you can't do that unless. Carry as little identification information as possible when you're out and about. Don't carry 15 credit cards with you. Carry one just in case your wallet is stolen. And you know the drill. Put your credit cards into your scanner and front and back, and make sure you have all the information in case you need to close them at a moment's notice. Because when you get your credit card statements, they don't have the entire number. So unless you have written down the information or run a copy of it, you're not going to know the complete numbers, so you can shut down your accounts. Don't give personal identification on the phone unless you initiate the call. Again, be cautious with your personal information in your home. I don't know how many people I have come across that insist on carrying their social security card. I cannot figure out why, but that's not something you should do. Keep your credit card receipts, etc., to check against your statements. Be informed about your financial institution's policies of how they're sharing your information. In California, we have this way cool internet privacy that we have, better than anybody else in the United States. And it takes time. You go to the websites. That happened to me today when I was updating this presentation. And I had to go into each one and specify exactly which cookies they could use. And I tightened everything down. And then you say, here, this is what information you can have, and that is it. And every once in a while, I will come across a website that doesn't have that. And if it's something I want to use, I get in touch and say, hey, it's the law that you have to have the California opt-out information on your website. Spread the knowledge. The Computer Club of Oklahoma City has this dear Corporal Kim who comes and gives presentations. And out here, we just have deputies and stuff, but they have military titles in Oklahoma County. And she works with something called SALT. I certainly wished we had the seniors and law enforcement together out here in California. I could only find one city that had it. And her suggestion is, when you're out and about, use a lanyard wallet. And if you ever attend a conference or something, you usually get them with your ID badge, put in it, and there's room for a pen, and you can put stuff behind the back. She says, don't carry a wallet. Put your information on that and hang it around your neck. Always use a gel pen for checks. I've adopted this. If you are using a credit card, don't use your fingers when you're putting in the PIN number, because they have phones that will take pictures of it, and if the infrared and the numbers that you put in will be warm. I do the same thing I always wipe mine off with my entire set of fingers. I do the same thing when I come in. I have home automation throughout my house, including my lock. So when I put in my passcode to get in, I take my fingers and I wipe it off. So the whole thing is hot, so to speak. Think about using a fanny pack. Think about using a pocket t-shirt. And she recommends a wrist lanyard for your keys, and have a bogus set of keys attached to it. And if you get accosted in a parking lot or something, and they say, give me the keys to your car, you pull off the keys that don't go to anything and toss them. And when they go after the keys, you turn around and you head for help. And she said, ladies, use a carabiner. I don't even know the correct pronunciation of that. And when you put your purse in the cart seat, you don't use the child belt like I always do. Go a step further and click it in with that. And she said, you should also have a money clip for bait. And she said, put some, dollars in the middle, maybe a 5 and maybe, 120 on the outside. And again, they want your keys, they want your money, you hand them the money clip. And there's not really that much money in it. And she said, please keep your phone case attached to your belt. And it's so funny because she said, men are easy prey. They get out of the car and they check both their back pockets. They want to make sure that their phone's in one, their wallet's in the other, and then they check something else. And she said that instantly tells anybody that is lurking around, hey, that guy's got his wallet in his back pocket. And if they can get close enough to you with an X-Acto knife, they can just casually slit open your pocket and your phone and your wallet can fall out. And she said, you guys, you're very capable of doing that when you're sitting in the car. You don't need to advertise to the whole world where you are keeping things. She's a firm believer of when you're checking out, you pull your cart in, you do not stand behind it. So there is an entire cart length between you and the next person who might be taking a picture of what you are doing with your credit card as you're sliding it in and putting the PIN number in. She has some really cool tips, and her security presentation for seniors is the best one I have ever seen. So how do you find out if your stuff has been stolen? Credit report. Fix your errors like I did with, I really didn't live in those 2 houses. They're all free. You should do it every 4 months just to make sure. And if it's been stolen, you immediately contact your bank accounts, close them if they've been compromised. Do not pass go, do it quickly. Credit cards, verified, no authorized activity has occurred. Let them know that, I want to set up something that you're going to let me know for every charge, just to make sure. You need to get in touch with the FTC's identity theft hotline, ask for assistance. Fill out the form so they can keep track of this. It might be something where you could eventually get your money back. And what I told my daughter's mother-in-law when she got ready to contact our local sheriffs, I said, stop, write everything down, because you are going to have to repeat this many times. And you want to make sure you say the same thing every time. I said, because I taught in the afternoon, the same class at night. I would get into the night class and say, oh yeah, I already told the class this. Well, no, I had done it in the afternoon. And I said, you're going to think I already said that, so write it down. Contact your creditors or financial institutions. And what is critical, and this is per the LAPD, is file a report with your local police where you live and the police where the theft took place. So if I'm down in the San Fernando Valley and somebody steals my purse, I'm going to get in touch with the LAPD to file a report. I'm going to come home and I'm going to do the exact same thing with the sheriff's department. Provide as much documentation as you can and be persistent. Keep them on the hook. You want an answer. Don't let them forget about you. And I have a presentation that I call my living presentation about death, because every time I give it, somebody pipes up and says, hey, you forgot to include this. So the year after somebody dies, it's a very vulnerable time for ID theft. We are living with that. And when we die, they are still after us. Death is a public record. The criminals have nothing better to do than go through everything online, and they will get enough information to create a fake ID. So I suggest everybody write their own obituary, because you will read them where they have everybody's mother's name, maiden name in there. They have the address, they have the pets' names. I know none of you use your pets' names in your password, but many people do. So there's enough information in an obituary so your ID can be stolen, and we don't want it when we're alive, and we certainly don't want to happen when we're no longer here. They do the exact same thing as they do both times. And I don't want a thief to become me and trash my identity. because we all have a gazillion accounts with credentials, usernames, and passwords. This is just a teeny tiny little list of things that we need to make sure that our executor knows about, so they can easily shut them down and they can't get compromised. So you need a digital executor in your will or your living trust. You're really easy to use a password program. You can use an encrypted flash drive for all of them, but we have to have something so when they walk in the door, they don't say, now what do we do? We're the technology people, so we can take care of getting everything ready. So it's an easy thing for them to shut everything down that needs to be shut down. And of course, we need to remember to keep everything up to date for them and so on. And I am finished.
All right. Well, Judy, thank you very much. We will pause for a second and switch over